The issue of reality control is a constant theme in George Orwell's 1984. It is represented through various concepts such as newspeak and doublethink. More specifically, the party uses war to distract the citizens of Oceania from their poor living standards. Additionally, the telescreen was implemented to gather intel on the citizens, which is used to alter their life and warp their perception of reality. Unfortunately, reality control is not a fictional concept, but a real-world problem we are all experiencing today.
Fake news is a common example of how reality control has been integrated into our society. Fake news has become so prevalent in the media that as consumers of news, we have become completely desensitized to the issue. This has begun to pose a threat to human rights as it smudges the line between fact and fiction. Unfortunately, many people do not verify the news that they consume, meaning that one false headline can be taken as the absolute truth and prevent people from accessing real information about the world around them. This issue has been propelled by the media's seemingly complete lack of regard for the consistent truth. Modern-day journalism is becoming less and less about reporting on important issues and increasingly focused on creating sensational headlines, otherwise known as clickbait. The more their articles are viewed, the more money they make. There is also an increased pressure to be the first one to put out a story, which results in minimal or no fact-checking. Ensuring that information is correct requires more time and money than producing a false story. So as readers are not verifying the information they consume and the media is not verifying their sources, we continue the cycle of misinformation and fabricated truths.
Big news.
This is a lie.
Well, for some time now, we have been forced to question the truth behind the articles, pictures, and newscasting that we absorb. Actual footage of an event has been perceived as automatically reliable. This is due to the fact that until quite recently, it has been significantly less expensive to obtain reliable video documentation than to convincingly falsify a video. This recently changed when a series of pornographic videos were released which had been altered using newly developed inexpensive video editing software to convincingly depict celebrities rather than original actors. The advancement will likely result in an influx of doctored footage entering mainstream media. The concept of altered footage being streamed to consumers parallels the videos that appear in the telescreens in 1984. The development is potentially even more dangerous than fake news in the form of print, as similarly to the citizens of Oceania, it is incredibly difficult to deny one's visual senses.
Similarly to the media, political leaders have been able to use the influx of fake news to their advantage. They use the concept to smear their opponents, rally their supporters, and undermine any unfavorable journalism. This is harmful to the public as there is a lack of transparency behind politicians, and it has begun to seem as though they are spending more time and money manipulating the media to maintain their image and crying fake news than actually making the changes that they promise to the people.
You are fake news.
They have been fake news for a long time.
Fake news.
In 1984, the party uses fake footage and information about their enemies, such as East Asia, Eurasia, and Goldstein, to manipulate the citizens of Oceania. They use false proof to crush said opponents while inspiring gratitude from the people. The use of fake news to make the people feel hatred and protection from Big Brother rivals the same concept that is currently being implemented by political leaders around the world.
Italiano irrompe sulla scena politica, caccia I trafficanti del tempo.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Reality control goes far beyond fake news. In fact, the technique best described by the phrase smoke and mirrors is often much harder to identify. The best relevant real-world example is the highly controversial Nunes memo. Nunes' memo is a 4-page memo written by Republican and Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes. The memo alleges that there was issues with accuracy and legality regarding an FBI wiretap which is permitted by the Department of Justice on Carter Page, a Trump campaign advisor. In his memo, Nunes states that there is a bias against Trump from within the FBI. This is due to a conversation which occurred over text between an FBI agent and an FBI attorney that was critical of the president. That being said, the concept of some larger conspiracy from within the FBI against Trump is quite ridiculous, seeing as the current director of the FBI was appointed by the president himself. Upon the first glance, Nunes' memo is seemingly completely unrelated to reality control. That is, until one takes a step back to look at the larger picture. Just over a year ago, the American Intelligence Committee confirmed that there was Russian intervention during the 2016 presidential campaign. And since May of 2017, former director of the FBI and current special counsel Robert Mueller has led an investigation into the possibility of collusion between members of the 2016 presidential campaign and Russian spies. If Mueller's investigation discloses collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia, it could mean massive political backlash and potentially criminal charges. As a result, to distract from the investigation and, in the president's fondest hopes, fire Mueller and call off his investigation, the Republicans have gotten Nunes to create this memo. They're using something that is seemingly important and very controversial in an attempt to distract from the real issue and their corruption. This same smoke and mirrors technique is demonstrated in 1984 by the party's use of the made-up war to distract people from real-world issues such as decreased rations and poorer living standards.
With the rise of social media, the modification of truth by politicians has taken on a new model in the form of fake supporters on platforms such as Twitter. During the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump was retweeted by Russian-linked bots on Twitter almost 500,000 times. While this may seem trivial, the increase in followers and retweets spread the information and ultimately led to the increased audience. The bots also made Trump appear more popular with voters to back and potential voters. This form of reality control is comparable to how Big Brother's posters are plastered everywhere in Oceania, which by creating the appearance of popularity drew the people in, forcing them to hear his message.
It is undeniable that not only do we face the issue of reality control every day, but that we are being conditioned to become increasingly tolerant of it. I'll ask you to consider the last time that you fact-checked an article after reading it. And now, try to remember a time in which you cared upon finding out that the information in the article had been fabricated. Similarly to the citizens of Oceania, it is difficult for most of us to draw up a memory, which goes to show just how susceptible we are to reality control. Understanding this, it is important that we take the necessary steps to avoid the conditions which allowed Big Brother to rise to power in 1984. I strongly believe that if we continue on the path that we are currently headed, 1984 will no longer be fiction.